There has been a huge expose in the mainstream of Scientology, which is always very exciting for us YouTuber Scientology people. Of course, I like to consider myself an honorary member of the SPs, the suppressive persons who are not very well liked by Scientology, who expose the wrongdoings and abuses of the cult known for Tom Cruise. Of course, I'm not quite part of these I'm a never in, as they say. I'm not Aaron Smith Levin or some of these people who were born into it. However, it's exciting to see that the rest of the world learns about this stuff. I can't tell you how often I'm out at a dinner or something and people start saying, oh, do you cover that cult, Scientology? They're fascinated. The world needs to know more about this horrible abusive cult and its horrible leader. And the Daily Mail has just done a big, huge splash with Mitch Brisker, who was part of the filming and all of that of Scientology for many years. Mitch is now 74, but he was pretty much the trusted right-hand man to Scientology leader David Miscavige. He only left the church a year ago. Now, the Daily Mail are presenting this as a bit of a scoop for them. First time he's revealed this stuff. Now, you guys will know that's not true because he's spoken to Aaron on growing up in Scientology. And of course, he's spoken on this channel as well. We did one just about a month or two ago and it was absolutely fascinating. But there are loads of things that I don't know if he told Aaron. He certainly didn't tell me. And that's what's interesting, and that's what I want to talk about today. So the Daily Mail just leads with, and I want you to listen to this or read this thinking that most people aren't even aware of who David Miscavige is. So they start with David Miscavige, leader of the Church of Scientology, is a reclusive man with a penchant for designer clothes, a hunger for gifts, fast cars and superbikes, and a fondness for thumping music. See, I would have described him as a guy who goes around punching his members in the face and throwing them in the hole. But those are also relevant descriptions from Laura Collins, the chief investigative reporter. So this is a big scoop, I think, for the Daily Mail. She continues, and according to one of his closest lieutenants, Miscavige exiled his wife Shelley, seemingly without a second thought because he was done with her. This is the picture of the enigmatic man painted by Mitch Brisker, 74, former senior director and creative executive of Scientology's Golden Era Studios. For 30 years, Brisker was, by his own admission, chief architect of Scientology's propaganda and a trusted right-hand man to its leader, Miscavige, 63. Doesn't seem to have aged a day, though, does he? Once a member of the church's upper echelons, he left the church just over a year ago. This is Mitch, of course, not David Miscavige, after clashing with Miscavige and losing faith in what it stood for. Now, Mitch is speaking out for the first time in an exclusive interview with DailyMail.com. We know that's not true. He spoke to me and Aaron and loads of other ex-Scientologists, giving his unique insight into Miscavige, his personality, his missing wife, his infamous friendship with Tom Cruise, and the luxurious lifestyle of the man whom, he says, conducts himself like a super celebrity. So this Mail article is packed with new photos that I hadn't seen, all sorts of Tom Cruise and Miscavige photos together. And it says that when Brisker first met Miscavige in 1990, he was immediately struck by the person he describes as very, very intense. Now, that's not going to be a surprise to most of you guys, certainly not to me. Miscavige is pretty damn intense. Even all of his photos, he's sort of leaning forward, looking into the camera like a lunatic. Back then, the newspaper says, according to Brisker, Miscavige worked out and body-built obsessively and favoured tight muscle t-shirts to show off the fruits of his labour. Wow. He was, Brisker soon learned, all about control in every aspect of his life. Brisker said there is not a greater control freak ever born in the existence of the human race. Everything that happens in Scientology, right down to the soap they're going to use on their luxury cruise liner, is submitted to him for approval. I mean, he spends hundreds and hundreds of hours, so much of his week I've been there, I've seen it, getting these completed staff work forms. That's basically a proposal for approval. When I first went up there, this is Mitch Brisker talking, of course, to the international base, when we did a film, every aspect of it, the casting, the wardrobe, the lighting, where the actors boxes were going to stand, where the cameras were going to be placed. All that stuff had to be submitted for approval in detail. He's an absolute control freak. That's really interesting, because Miscavige must then take it to heart that his numbers, the members of Scientology, are just going down and down. There is no official number. Of course, according to Scientology, they're in the millions. We imagine it's 20 to 25,000. Even a couple of years ago, we were saying 30,000. Our best estimates are at about 20 to 25,000 now. So really, it is shrinking significantly. No more celebrities are joining. And all of that, let's make sure the right lighting is there. He's obviously not doing a very good job. So he may be a control freak, and he may have been pretty ambitious to take the reins from L. Ron Hubbard, well, after L. Ron Hubbard died, to take those reins, to sit on that throne and take his place. I think you have to be a pretty cutthroat kind of guy, and he definitely is that. The Daily Mail continues, like I said, I love this. I love our world, you guys and me and Aaron and all the guys. I love our world that we're reporting on going out into the mainstream, just random people over coffee, just reading the Daily Mail. Maybe my dad's read this article, who knows. They continue, that freakishness about David Miscavige extends to how he demands the multiple conference rooms at any given Scientology center are set up for him on arrival. Brisker says there would have to be a pile of Mont Blanc pens. They're so expensive, by the way. I saw some at the airport the other day. Mont Blanc pens, right? They're like 4,000 or 5,000 euros or dollars or whatever. It's like, and those probably aren't even the expensive ones. I don't know, man. I think with some things like that, there's only so good a pen can get, you know. I'm sure some people will disagree and say, oh, no, I love my pen. You know, fair enough. I'm not going to, say anything. But also at the same airport, this was Frankfurt the other day, there was whiskey going for 50,000 euros, which is like $55,000. One bottle. Who's drinking that? But anyway, Miscavige likes his Mont Blanc pens. An unopened packet of Camel cigarettes would be there as well. An ashtray, a particular brand of mineral water, which Mitch forgets which brand, and an unopened packet of gum. He recalled, Brisker, during any meeting, Miscavige would have a drag of a cigarette, take a sip of the water, and chew a piece of the gum. Maybe if the meeting was longer, he'd have another cigarette, but when he left, all the rest had to be thrown away. That is just wasteful. Mitch continues, I don't know if he was paranoid about being poisoned or something. That must be it. But everything always had to be new and unopened. Daily Mail says, indeed, Miscavige is very preoccupied with the material world and acquiring new things. Gift giving is a huge part of Scientology's culture under Miscavige's rule. According to Brisker, Miscavige understands the power and pressure that can come with gift giving. For his part, Brisker received gifts worth thousands of dollars when he was in favor and being love-bombed by Miscavige. He recalls receiving an original Norwalk juicer worth $3,000, an audio system worth thousands, and a $10,000 television screen, which church members delivered and installed. That reminds me of Pablo Escobar. That's how a lot of politicians and authoritarian leaders behave, because they want to curry favor, they want to love bomb, as Brisker said himself, they want to get people on side, and they start giving you all these gifts so you feel guilty, like you have to defend this person with your life. Brisker added, there was always this element of virtue signaling and narcissistic philanthropy. Miscavige bought me the juicer because he said he was concerned for my health. Miscavige was also a big fan of receiving lavish gifts. Well, of course he is. Brisker recalled he circulated a wish list of gifts every birthday and Christmas, and members were expected to get together and buy him items on it. So he's gone around and just punched you in the face, thrown you in the hole for several weeks, and you've got to get him a birthday present, lest you be thrown back in that hole. This doesn't sound like a cult I want to be a part of. Brisker continued, there were things like $700 designer shirts, expensive cameras. He loved camera gear, music. He loves thumping music. Man, this little weird guy. He had a bespoke Mustang worth more than $100,000 that was gifted to him by members of the Flag, which is Church of Scientology's Flag Services organization in Clearwater, Florida, and a super bike that was also from Flag. I think I've seen him in a picture with Tom Cruise on those super bikes. Brisker recalls Miscavige and Cruise racing around the international base on their motorbikes, gifted by members of the Sea Org. He said they really are like separated at birth. It was almost cute to see them together. I think for Tom that's a genuine friendship and almost worship. But a fundamental difference between the men is, Brisker thinks, that Cruise has a real streak of goodness in him, while he could not find any redeeming feature in Miscavige. In fact, Brisker says Tom Cruise is Scientology's #1 victim. I know people will disagree with me about this, but it's like he's living in a distorted reality. He's fully in the Matrix. Today, Brisker suspects the same is true of Shelley Miscavige, once crowned the First Lady of Scientology by Vanity Fair. She was last seen in public in 2007. Her whereabouts have been the subject of investigation and speculation ever since. In 2012, attorneys claiming to represent Shelley stated that she was fit and well and merely living a private life devoted to Scientology. That's an interesting thing, of course. For those who don't know, of course, that's Leah Remini, the actress from King of Queens. She has brought this up several times. Her old friend, Shelley Miscavige, pretty much went missing. But Aaron Smith-Levin is among many who think she's basically in this bunker somewhere. I think it's in California. And she's just living her life, devoted to Scientology. And I've said this before, I feel we've too easily separate people into sort of good and bad, black and white, that kind of thing. And I think the reality is she was part of the whole Miscavige thing. What Mitch is saying about Tom Cruise being sort of both victim and perpetrator probably applies to a lot of people at the higher echelons of Scientology. And Shelley, by all accounts, was maybe a nicer foil to David Miscavige, but wasn't always exactly that nice and often turned a blind eye to all sorts of abuses. Questions persisted about Shelley Miscavige, this is Daily Mail again, and in 2013, amid rumours that she was being held somewhat against her will, actress and vocal Scientology critic Leah Remini filed a missing persons report with Los Angeles Police Department. It was closed within a matter of hours. But according to Brisker, he saw Shelley in 2008, a year after she supposedly vanished. He said, Shelley's not missing and she's not being held prisoner anywhere. That's my honest belief. Instead, Mitch is certain she is living in Scientology's secretive bunker-like base in the mountain town of Crestline, California. The base near Twin Peaks is where devotees spend their days ensuring founder L. Ron Hubbard's immortality by memorializing his copious writings on metal plates. Brisker explained, my routine when I worked out at Golden Era was I would drive out to the international base in Gilman Springs, California, and I'd stop at a town called Redlands for lunch, then continue another 30 minutes or so to the base. If you draw a straight line on the only road out of Crestline, the first place you land in is Redlands. It's really the only place out there with notable restaurants where you could go for a nice lunch. And that day, I noticed a woman I knew, whom I now know is one of Shelley's handlers. That's a person's auditor and friend. Brisker is hazy on the restaurant, doesn't really remember, but thinks it may have been a Chipotle. So there you go. He continued, then I realised Shelley was sitting there. It just looked like 3 girlfriends having lunch. It was very awkward when they saw me. I realise now they didn't want anybody to know where she was, but there's no doubt in my mind she's at Crestline because there's no other reason she would have been way out there having lunch that day. But while Brisker doesn't believe that Shelley is imprisoned against her will and is instead simply living out a life of devotion, he does believe that Miscavige acted with chilling ruthlessness when he dispatched her to Crestline, effectively throwing her into exile when he was done with her. And there are all sorts of rumours. Do you remember with his receptionist at that time that he was getting off with her and then got rid of Shelley? Brisker adds, I think he was just done with her. He didn't want to see her ever again. When they were together, she was always pleasant to me, very cordial and polite. We coordinated on birthday and Christmas gifts. Some have speculated she could have taken over leadership of the church. I never saw her as anything more than a glorified social director and assistant. Miscavige, Brisker recalled, would often fail to include Shelley in conversations in public, and she would always stand slightly behind her husband when he spoke. In Shelley's absence, Brisker said the chairman's executive assistant, Laurice Lou Henley Smith, ascended. That's who I'm talking about. For many years, she looked after Tom Cruise, but after Shelley left, you never saw Miscavige without Lou by his side. Seriously, the only place I saw him without her was the men's room. They even started dressing the same like a couple. Despite being the most senior member of the Sea Org, the church's pseudo-militaristic clergy, Miscavige rarely wore uniform, according to Brisker, preferring designer suits and Italian leather jackets. He said he and Lou had matching ones, his and hers. Brisker also, that's so pathetic. Brisker also noted that unlike Miscavige's wife, when the leader spoke in company, Lou would often stand slightly in front of him. Wow, Lou is a real go-getter. Brisker, who refers to Lou as Miscavige's co-conspirator, said he was convinced that their relationship had become romantic during one overnight flight in Tom Cruise's private jet. Bloody hell. And it goes on from there. it's an extraordinary piece to be putting out into the public in such a way to really make those kinds of allegations. It's going to make some noise with Scientology. And I think it's going to... I don't know. It's going to be an embarrassment for Miscavige. That's what I really think. More and more people are learning about them. More and more people are seeing the truth about what's going on. Of course, there was the Masterson thing this year. It's not been a good year for Scientology. And let's be honest, I don't remember the last time there was a good year for Scientology. Hit the like here, comment below, let me know what you think about this story breaking into the mainstream and if there will be more coming out. Shall I try and get Mitch back on? And keep on watching this channel. There's all sorts of stuff that is very related to do with Scientology, and this is one of the few places to really learn about it. I could tell you about some other great ones as well, but keep on watching here.